So today what we're going to be looking at is pattern recognition. Now this whole section, what we're looking at is we want to be able to identify patterns in either sets of numbers, expressions, or scenarios. Now this may get to the point where you look at it and not recognize the mathematical approach to it, but most of math is taking real life examples, applying values to them so that we can represent them as a quantity, and then applying mathematical principles and understand what comes next in the pattern. The goal is to be able to investigate a pattern and explain real life phenomena using these introductory expressions. So let's take a look at what's going on. We've got a couple different types of patterns we're going to start with. We're going to start with an abstract pattern, and we're going to move into arithmetic and geometric. So what is an abstract pattern? Well, an abstract pattern is a type that does not immediately lend itself to a value or quantity. So this doesn't necessarily lead from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, or in this case, because the pattern is going to the left, let's say 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. What we see here is this looks like a food chain pattern. We have an aspect where the milkweed is eaten by the caterpillar, which is eaten by the wasp, which is eaten by the bird. We know what we could continue along, but there's not really a value that we're looking at here. This is more a food chain, and this is abstract. The other thing that we're looking at is a type of cyclical pattern. So we've got what looks like butterflies. We have eggs, which lead to larvae, which lead to pupa, which lead to butterflies, which make more eggs, and it continues in this circle. So this is a life cycle, which is also abstract. Okay, perfect. And let's zoom in just a little bit on these bottom things right here. Our other two types of patterns we're going to go over, and we're going to spend most of our focus on these two, is going to be an arithmetic pattern and a geometric pattern. Arithmetic is going to be something where we have a constant addition or subtraction. So we are constantly either adding or subtracting. And so let's look and see what we're doing here. Well, what we have is we've got some muffins or some cupcakes. Here we have less, and here we have even less. So it looks like we've lost 2. And if I highlight those parts, for the next step, it looks like we lost an additional 2. So we lost 2, we lost 2. So we lost 2 each time, which is basically the way of saying subtract 2, which makes this an arithmetic pattern. If I can spell, I put the H in the wrong spot for some strange reason. And this, the other thing with arithmetic and geometric, unlike these where we couldn't necessarily add values to them, these lend themselves a little more easily. We noticed we had, let's see, 4, 7, 9. We had 9, then we had 7, then we had 5. We can count, we can apply mathematical principles to this. Same with this pattern right here. Looks like we have a little pen with some rabbits. Here we have 2, then 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we have 8 rabbits. So it looks like we are constantly either multiplying or dividing. And so if we go through each of this scenario, we are doubling each time, which is the equivalent of saying let's multiply by 2 every single time, which makes this pattern geometric. Awesome. And so those are the 3 types of patterns that we're going to be observing within this unit. We're going to start out with the abstract and start turning the abstract into one of these 2 categories. Now, there are other categories out there. We're not necessarily going to dive into those. We're just going to stick with these 2 as labeling them as either arithmetic, geometric, or neither.